Welcome to day one of Apex week. So happy I'm finally here, got done with the ride. Right here. I've been waiting 3 years, I'll freaking destroy you. Hey guys, it's Will coming at you. It is Saturday as of this recording. It is early in the morning, so that's why I got this whole cam set up here. But yeah, I'm pro. I'm waiting for our ride to get here. We're gonna go to the shop and play some Apex today. I got as much as I could get done. All the main characters are done. All their tokens are painted, and I got 2 of the display boards done. So we're gonna go early there, get some, morning coffee, and then get to the shop to set up the demo boards. And with that, I'll see you guys when we're on the road or playing some games in the store and we have it all set up. Always home, Steve. Hey guys, so I'm back here and we've played our matches, had some fun, people are interested, showed off some of the game, talked about the stuff, kind of the spiel, soloing. So, kind of coming here at the end of this week, thanks so much for being a part of it. I had so much fun, and hopefully you can enjoy some of the slideshows of the screenshots I've taken. And I'm going to kind of go over things and stuff, freeform, and we're going to kind of talk about that stuff. And I have the whiteboard. The board here with some stats. So looking at the stats here, hopefully you guys can see this clearly. I'm sorry if it's blurry, but as you can see, we had 2 games between me and Donny Boy. We had 2 matches, one starting with the battle royale, and then ending with the deathmatch board. We had 2 boards set up for this event. We had the one we were playing, which is the full experience battle royale. And then we had a deathmatch board set up for people who wanted to come and try it. A little more simpler, a lot more easier to use. The homemade tokens I still kept from my Apex board game. I kept them for today. Hopefully, going forwards, it's just going to be me and a friend playing, so I don't need those anymore. And I will be buying a core box once they get available to stores where I live. And I will be using that as my actual play copy, swapping out the unpainted models to put back into the collector's edition box, and then that way I can just leave the collectors alone and play with just the core box. I think thoughts we'll get into the end of that. So let's just talk about the matches going forwards here. So as you can see, I have some stats, kind of like the laydowns. So and hopefully I can edit this right to have photos kind of explain what's been going on. So Battle Royale started. This was our first full game in person with the new updated rules and all that stuff, finalized things. We came from playing the Tabletop Simulator version, which still is available for you guys. If you want to try it, I highly recommend checking the demo. I'll have links below in this video for you guys to check it out if you have Tabletop Simulator. Even if you have somebody you know who owns it, you can share play it. It works perfectly fine, especially if it's your first time playing. You're all going to be answering questions together anyways. It's not going to be a huge deal if you share a screen and see each other's hand. Getting into it, it was me versus him, our things. So by turn, it was a 5-round event, leading with the ring, closing into the very middle, there's a chasm in the middle. We did Box Canyon or whatever it was called. If I remember what the name is, or if I find it, I'll post. It's down here somewhere. The name of it is. Played that one where there's boxes, buildings on the left corner and on the right corner. By magic, we have the map. So as you can see here, it's kind of dark. I'm sorry, it's just auto lighting of this camera. But as you can see, we had buildings kind of around the corners, and then the chasm in the center. The little red X's, if you can see it, that's where the characters were standing. So it started moving in from the top. I got dinged twice in the ring with Lifeline. Lifeline was taking a lot of hits because Bangalore was hiding pretty well. From what I got kitted, I made it so that Lifeline had my Evo shotgun, my close combat stuff. She was going to try to stay close by Bangalore to act as a healing, which she kind of did near the end when we were forced to the ground with the dock healing and drones and stuff. And then Bangalore had all the weapons. I got all the weapon attachments from the blind pulls from when we were setting up and deploying. Whereas Don Boy had a lot of gear, and he pulled a not the sniper rifle, the one that just says "fuck you" whenever you fire it to somebody, but the one that leads into that one, like the one that's second best to it. And he started his round by cracking Lifeline for about like 40 or like 30 something damage, and basically dropped her down to about like 20 health. Barely stayed alive. Damn it. And then Bangalore was able to drop health, but he kept healing or finding things to heal. I was pushed into the cavern twice, and he was with positioning. He blocked me from being able to get more one step out so I can get into the ring, because the ring was basically wrapped around the cavern, and where the two spots he was positioned in was the only free spots that was in while not being in and then Bangalore ended up dying from the ring damage because she was outside with Gibby. Gibby was fully healed because of his Phoenix kits and stuff. And he ended up winning by, we were playing it, because we don't really fully know the rules, we're just playing to play. So if we get rules wrong, please let me know below, or so others know how to properly do it. Or if not, I'll have a rules explanation video soon, later on, maybe in the month or so, explaining how to actually play. But for now, we played it that if you died and it wasn't because another player killed you, your mark would just drop where you left, where you died, just like items would if you discarded them from looting a box. And he ended up picking it up and winning the game. The MVP, even though Bloodhound basically almost one-shotted Lifeline, Gibraltar basically was MVP. He kept tanking hits. The ring couldn't put him down, and he ended up basically pushing the winning character into the chasm, forcing me to lose a turn, which put me into a position due to ring movement to get me killed. So, yeah, his shield is a lot stronger now. His from playtesting, his bomb is a lot weaker in the sense of like how when it goes off, it's not just instant kabooey. But his ability cards are really strong now, and nothing to sleep on. He's a really good tank character if he needs some protection. He's probably going to be, if you're playing with just the core 6, I can see Gibraltar, Bloodhound, Wraith on the table. They play really nicely balanced. They can get in and out of places easily. They do a lot of damage, and they're very good for multi-purposes like deathmatch and battle royals and stuff, and they synergize well. Now that leads into our second game, which is our deathmatch mode. Now in this one, it was a custom map that I just made. I threw some buildings on the table, added a couple of floors, some resupply bins and stuff like that. Deathmatch plays a little bit more different than the Battle Royale mode, whereas in Battle Royale, you choose your loadouts, you pull all these cards, the full game experience. Deathmatch basically cuts all the setup, once you have, the buildings and the map set up, it cuts all the setup out of the game and you just get right into playing. You have cards, you don't have to worry about ammo and looting, really the scarcity of being killed or hiding and stuff and the ring moving. It's just a map with buildings, you have your gear, and you just go at it. And we did first to 5, or best out of 5, whatever you want to say, or up to when the round ended at 10. And that's kind of like where we got our score, which is kind of hard to see on the viewfinder. So I'm sorry if on the actual screen, if I see this editing, it looks good, but on my end, it looks shitty. Anyways, and in this game, it boiled down to King of the Hill. In the top left section of the map from where I was sitting was a 2-story or 3-story building. It ended up, I think it was just a 2-floor, but it was just tall. But anyways, it ended up with that thing. He moved in turn 1 with, he deployed on his end, I deployed on my end. I had, using this map as an example of spacing, ignoring the buildings. If I was here and he was here, I had my Wraith hide behind the building here. And then I had my Octane hide here. He had his Pathfinder over here. And his Bangalore over here. Or over here somewhere. And turn 1, he got first. He won the card flip. And he used Pathfinder's ability to grapple, to make a zip line all the way up to the top of the building. He zipped up there. And the entire match, smoke 24, just a hot box. That place was just hot box. Bangalore just kept using responses and stuff and just dropping smoke bombs onto that top area, and it was just king of the hill, playground style, pushing each other off the ledge, doing massive damage from the push. We ended up counting like six or seven times he pushed my characters off of that ledge, and I ended up only being able to push him off twice. I could not ever hit him with a punch. It ended up with a two for him, one for me, in a number of points or kills, and he had all that stuff. It was a lot of fun. I really like that mode. It's something quick you can play after you played a battle royale and you don't want to put the stuff away right away, because that's a thing we'll get to talking about in our thoughts and opinions on that. And yeah, MVP was Bangalore with the 2-punch knockout win or kill. I ended up killing both of the characters, or I ended up killing Wraith. Wraith took so much hits, even though if you play her right, she's a very slippery character. She's kind of like a dex-based tank in a sense. She has a lot of cards and abilities, if you get lucky, that lets you slip out of damage and out of range and things. Learning the orders of when things activate is very important, because there's a lot of things that can give you feel bad moments, and I feel sorry because there was a couple of instances where this kind of came out and it felt bad just to be like, hey, I just noticed this. We haven't fully done things, so I'm just going to do it right now. And it's like, no, I should have explained what it was and then just kept going and let him do the thing. And it felt bad to find out, like, oh, this is the order of operations, the stack, how it works. And so it's like, I'll get it on here. I'll actually show it on the board here. I'll just let me finish this ramble. But yeah, the MVP was Bangalore. And then our final thoughts was on here, which is on this side right here. Whoa. Right there, if you can see it, because it's dim. But the ring, we were doing it. We don't know exactly how the ring was supposed to go, but the ring, we don't really knew how it worked. Kind of how we were doing it was the ring only moved when it hit the square, but every time it would move around, if you were outside of the ring, you took the damage. I think for the first half, every time it would move around, we're actually moving the ring, so it was moving a lot quicker, and then also doing damage after the ring moved, which made the ring a lot more threatening and sped up the game, and I actually really liked it that way. But I believe the official way of how you're supposed to play it is the ring only moves when you hit the square that tells you to shuffle the deck and move it, and then whenever you move on to the next round, if you're outside of it, then you take damage. So there is that to consider. So if you like the way that we did it, and you find as you play your copy or the tabletop simulator version that you find the ring isn't that great of a threat, or it's not moving fast enough, then play it that way. As I was just talking about it, that was the matches. It was a lot of fun, and I don't know if he liked it or not this way, but it worked. We didn't really argue much about it. It was just like a lot of me, not going to bed till like 4 a.m. in sleepy brain, not really tracking everything, but we kind of figured out a way to do it. So I'm going to go over how we figured out the shooting step, just in case maybe you guys might want to know how we did it, or if you need, advice how to do it. This is kind of like how we did it. So red is going to represent your opponent, blue is going to represent you, and then the black wording is going to be the neutral, the basic, this actual step. So looking at our flow chart here, our fancy dancy flow chart, which is kind of darkened and out of focus. With that, now we can finally get into pros, cons, final thoughts and stuff, as I have right here. So we're going to get over that, and we're going to kind of talk it out. I'm going to show it off. It seems how I showed off the orders of how we did shooting and stuff works a lot better for the lighting. So we're going to head there, and you'll see the board back up, and we'll kind of have me behind the scenes talking as you guys can see the board. Yeah, Will on the left of you and potentially on the right of you soon. So hopefully you have stereo headphones, or you're not going to understand half of what I say. Anyways, let's get right to it. So we have our final board here, our board of thoughts and things and dones and do's. This is all after the week of painting and reading rules as best as I could at 3 a.m. Playing the game with somebody who's also kind of newish to it, and just the general setup, running an event, like a mini event with it, and packing it all up and going home. So I want to emphasize this starting, that I personally believe that a lot of this can be filed to just the edition that I bought, and being one that is meant to be at home and not brought out places. But seeing as where I live, the game has a very small view. I'm the only other person I know of 5 hours away. So just take my cons and my pros with a grain of salt. Maybe you have a different view on it. Maybe if you bought standard core version of the box, maybe you have different views. Maybe your pros are your cons and my pros are your cons and my cons are your pros. So going into this, actually let's start with thoughts. That makes more sense. So you kind of see where I got my pros and cons from. Starting with it right away, going into, day one when I bought it, doing the unboxing video, to punching out the cards and stuff, setting up the trays, trying to figure out how it was all built with the layout sheet that's in there. It does a pretty decent job, but required a magnifying glass just to see parts. So my thoughts here is the inside, again, with the big box, the layout, once it's put together, does pretty well. And it showed that even if I had like 2 or 3 tables set up out of parts in the box, I pulled almost everything out. It still took the same amount of time, and actually it was a little quicker now because I had things all set up and punched than it did during the initial, I don't know anything that's in the box layout sort of thing. So my thoughts on this is that maybe as you get smaller, or the more you play and get used to it, or you're able to use outside boxes like comic short boxes or storage things, and army cases, magnetized army cases, pull-out trays from IKEA and stuff. Like we see people, or fish tackle boxes like we see people do with Gloomhaven. This problem will be fixed. But for what they have, for how much time they had, and to get a product out, it is fully feasible. It is fun. It's fully okay. It does its job. It's just a little slower. Talking about being small and stuff, I would like to have seen that they included cardboard boxes inside of the Kickstarter all-in boxes. Now they say that if you bought the box separately, that you can put those boxes inside of it, so you can have your expansion boards, Squad 1 expansion board boxes all inside of the Kickstarter box. Which, even if they didn't put art on the boxes, I would have liked to have just had a box of that size, just so when I did today's event, I could have just brought the core box plus the board expansion box, and that would have saved me so many trips, wait, setup time, and but that setup time isn't that huge of a problem. But it would have saved my problem, which is the large box that is super heavy, and I don't want to damage my exclusive special box, because you can't get that, and you won't after you Kickstarter. So I only got one ever. I would have liked those small boxes, but again, I know what edition I bought. It is a copy this copy is going to stay home forever. The core box I buy in a couple of months, once they finally reach here, is going to be the one I use to bring to places or people's houses. Which, talk about bringing things to people's houses. Can't wait to see what the tournament scene is going to be like. Being able to bring that stuff places, knowing places are going to get tournament support, hopefully. I would love to see Glass Cannon support their tournament scenes, just because they've pushed so much on the emphasis of it is a casual, fun gameplay for people who are interested in Apex or like Apex, but can be turned into the next sort of kill team with 40k competitive players helping write the tournament rules. And them having 2 separate books for that, having a casual core rule book and a match play like advanced rule book, is something a lot of games, including Warhammer, should do and make it a distinct difference between the two. So can't wait to see what they do with that, which includes expansions, new boards, and stuff like that. Which hopefully, if they do that, they're going to be leading into explanations. We did run into a couple cards, me and Donnie playing. He's okay with me using his name. I just asked him like a few hours ago. There's a couple of cards that ran into issues. Lifeline has a card that says something on the lines of, when she drops her Doc, as if she's, if Doc is out and he's going to use his ability or whatever, you spawn him. Basically, you skip your turn to spawn Doc as an interrupt, and you guys can look at the chart flow as you've seen in the last section. Basically ignores 8 points of damage. 8 points of damage. It just says like something around like ignore 8 points of damage. Now how it's worded, we could have seen it could either be -8 damage in total, like total damage taken -8, or is it per hit, per shot that you have amount of damage, or is it just after all modifiers, or just the first hit you ignore the damage. Gibby also had a card like this with his shield that he has, where it's like you ignore headshots, and for damage taking you like -10. Again, is that how it's worded? Is it all damage total? Is it each hit? Or is it just the first hit? If you guys know the ruling or anything like that, please let me know down below. That would be greatly appreciated. Which, talking about the Gibby and all them, I can just segue into segues. The minis. As board game minis, they are really good. I like how they look. If you're not into painting like Warhammer minis or high-end Creature Caster D&D minis, just a simple black primer with a dry brushing of gray and white will do perfect. They look amazing as just the miniatures themselves without paint. Now, as somebody who saw the renders, and you always got to go with a grain of salt, the renders are not what the final models are going to look like unless you had a really high-end 3D printer, which they're mass marketing this game, so they're not going to, and they don't have access to the CMON printing presses. For a board game mini, not a competitive, painting mini like Kill Team or Creature, like Judgment, which is definitely a hobby miniature quality, they're good. They honor the characters, they look distinct, you can see detail, especially once they're primed and dry brushed. There's a lot of detail on them for what they are for mass produced. I would love to see, though, in the future that they make a War Gamers version of the characters. Even if it's, it's an STL I can buy to get printed somewhere, or if, say, it's something maybe 2 years down the line where they're just like, yeah, we've got all the stuff out, tournaments are going, here's for joining a tournament, here's prize support for a tournament pack where you get one of each of the main 6 or something, and you can hand them out for prizes or use them to just demo the game or something. Or even if we can just buy each individual character from the Glass Cannon website with the diorama base and the character for like $20 or something, 25, $30 Canadian. We can, or I guess with diorama base, because the diorama base as plastic is actually really well, and I'm okay with it being the plastic. But if they wanted to do a different one slightly that was a little bit more detail, or like even all their pieces, like, their marker tokens, like freaking Bloodhound birds or stuff, they want to do everything in resin or do something custom alt skin in resin, I would be willing to pay $40 Canadian for that to get the character plus the stands and things like that, and maybe an alt art card for what they do, like their player card for drafting. So we just talked about this. Now we're going to get into our pros. Now you know my mindset kind of and thoughts I've had. We're going to go into, once everything was set up, the game was pretty fun and pretty quick. It was, if you played any sort of skirmish game already, or you played Judgment, or see me play Judgment and stuff, or you've played other games like a dungeon crawl board game, it's pretty simple to pick up. The cards kind of already just guide you through it. The abilities, there's a bunch of cards, abilities and other cards are plenty that tells you how everything works, what all the keywords mean. They were really good at making sure you had a bunch of quick reach sort of cards that explained everything. And even when we didn't know what the exact ruling, we were able to come quickly with a house rule just for the moment that didn't break the game, and in some cases actually sped it up or made it better. So it's definitely a game where it is like your mid-level entry. So if you have your scale from like Monopoly to your like huge like Warhammer 40k or Infinity Big Brain war games, then your middle being like your Gloomhaven, the anime one, the Maleficus or Chapter 1 whatever, or like Kingdom Death. This would be just past Red Dragon Inn, that game. Complexity in the core mechanics and gameplay and understanding is what I mean. I don't mean it's not a simple game, like there's no advancement and there's no way to like pro chest player it, Just like how on the other end, I find the prime example of where, like, if you like the sort of game where you can leapfrog into wargaming but still keep it, is the Halo skirmish game. The Halo skirmish game was announced and shown off after the Apex game was shown and up for Kickstarter. So if you want to kind of see, the Apex game is your perfect alternative if you want a more, Titanfall setting, a little more game modes, more characters, more in depth with that, and you don't want the fancy dice that you have to buy separately. And of course, everything again, terrain and all the boards and stuff are all in the box. It's just like how Gloomhaven is very much D&D campaign in a box. This is a Warhammer skirmishy game in a box, which leads into the replayability. Again, because it is that box that has all the bits in it, and the boards and the buildings aren't just built in or painted onto the tiles, and there's just one board to play, or maybe 20 different scenarios, which 2 or 3 are locked behind if you go A or B route. You can just make your own boards. Very easy once you understand the play. You can easily make so much, and there's people posting tournament packs and terrain setups on the Tabletop Simulator and on the Discord for this game. Another thing I really like, this is more for if you bought the All-In Games pledge. Now, I don't know if diorama bases are going to be sold separately once they start releasing these things in store, or if it was just a All-In Games version exclusive. The dividers act as card holders, which frees up more space on your table, which is nice, and it just looks pretty to hold your tokens when you're not using them. And the plastic on them, it's not the best or thickest of plastic, but it's still a really good, decent plastic, and I have a feeling unless I shatter it or snap it or drop it really hard, it's going to last a long time. Especially if I like sealed it and everything after I painted. I like them. I really like the diorama bases. I haven't seen any other game do that. I really like it. They kind of understood modelers when they saw that. And then, like, as I was talking about, like, the simplicity but learning the simplicity of learning but the complexity of mastering, I love how they've perfectly explained and shown, even just by looking and playing the game, kind of just like, they don't tell you, they show you that this game is meant to be played your way. You can play casual, or with especially with future support, there's going to be a tournament scene or competitive scene. So if you're like me, who's a shitter, who likes to make house rules, have fun with the friends from time to time, you can play your casual game. But if you want to go to a store once you hear there's people playing, Apex Nights, or somebody's going to be stopping by with it, but they need an extra player or two, you can bring your favorite character, because you can play double characters. Then you can have your comp play. And it doesn't feel bad if you lose, but that might just be, again, just the hype train of me wanting to really play this. As I play this more in the future, as a year passes or so, my view might change on that. Just like Judgment, how I just love playing it, but now it's like, I still like it, and I'll still play competitively. Like, I still try to be a little bit more competitive, but I'll also be a little shitter when I play it too. Which leads into talking about setting up tournaments and stuff, and, awesome display bases and things. The box, with the all-in Gamer Edition version I have, with buying the board expansion one, and buying, and it coming with the playmat, with all the buildings and stuff inside of there, and the minis, of course using D20s to represent, health and shields and stuff like that, and using the different game modes, you can run 3 tables worth of Apex out of that one box. And we did that. We didn't run 3 because we only had the 2 tables, and the third one, it was everyone playing another game. But I did have it set up and a map plan written out for 3 tables. Talk about how those display bases are a decent plastic. Even the thin little flimsy plastic that covers it from, like, the dust covers that act as a support for the boards. All the parts inside of the box are pretty durable, and even the sleeves that the cardboard boxes slide into to make the buildings, as long as you're not, jamming it or just, like, not carefully folding it, they seem to be a nice lamination and durable. Though I still highly recommend that you use see-through packing tape, and you just give it a layer around those sleeves, and maybe a little bit on the where the fold is on the inside buildings, the thick cardboard parts. That is the pros, and now we're going to move to the cons. All right. So with the cons, a little bit less than it, but I tried to keep it equal. So again, this might just be a me issue. This might be better for you, but we talked about the minis here being great board game minis, but not great wargaming minis. I do give this huge warning right here. Oh, it's tiny physically, but the warning is huge. The minis we were promised from the Kickstarter was supposed to be these larger scale, larger than Warhammer scale minis that are really easy to paint, full of detail, in Tabletop Simulator. And on the Kickstarter, again, renders, you gotta give it with a little grain of salt. Also, videos of people playing it, like play on tabletop, or see how it's played when they got their earlier copies. Those minis looked amazing. Now, I'm pretty sure those minis were 3D prints and other things. Like I know Miniac, when he did his video painting up Bangalore, which I highly recommend check out. He did a really good job on her. He 3D printed that. They gave him the STL. So I'm wondering, why can't we have... I kind of understand why they don't do it, but they could have given us, especially those who went all in, or stores who bought the tournament packs that gave you like 6 boxes, who is either selling online or using it for tournament plays in their stores and other things. They should have been given STLs of at least the main 6 characters so that they can print them out and make demo tables, multiple demo tables and stuff, including maybe a card pack that they can print out, and you make them sign an NDA as part of purchasing, like, hey, you can only use these for your official tournaments ran by your business, sort of thing. And for people like me who bought the box, you can be like, hey, tell us which is your favorite character, or hey, here's the STL pack, but we're not going to give you the cards because you have the cards. This is for your own personal use. You can't be selling the prints, or you can't be printing them as part of a service. I would have liked that. So again, talked about it here. I hope in the future that we get those resin minis or better qualities. I understand why they printed it in the way that they did, and again, they're still really good board game minis. I like how they look when they were dry brushed and primed. I just was hoping them to be as detailed as they were kind of promised. PSA or warning asterisks under like the ads, unless I got the scaling wrong. Which, talking about underwhelmed scaling and promises, large box. I talked about this many times. I'm not going to go over it again hard, but if you skip to this part, I'll just say it here. Box is supposed to hold all the little boxes in it together, or take out all the trays and put it in as one big box. I would have liked to have blank boxes even, so that I can put the trays into those boxes, so I can take the small boxes places without damaging the big box. Talk about boxes, terrain. The terrain in this is super easy to store. I love the idea of it folding up, being put into the box. I love having multiple stuff, not having to paint it, having it pre-squared and everything, so you don't have to worry about measuring and like make sure it's the right scale. But I can see, especially if you use this in a store, or you travel a lot, like you're the guy who brings the games to places and people don't buy their own copies of things, especially with tariffs and stuff nowadays, there's going to be less people buying board games for now until stuff happens or people start printing in America. The terrain is going to get so battered, and like trying to make it fit tight in the walls of the box when we could have had it in such a way that the terrain sits flat on top of maybe the boards or something, and maybe it'll change out the layout of the dioramas. But again, they probably thought of that, and this was probably the simplest way to do it for the time that they were given. And the material costs, it's just cardboard. I'm hoping in the future some company out there that does MDF, or people themselves out there who make MDF STLs, will start printing or making terrain for it, even if it's not official EA, but it's like legally distinct. I'd buy that over the cardboard, though I do like the cardboard. It is, again, for putting what it went through, and even accidentally bending it halfway in the middle of one of the boxes, it bended up fine, and it's only holding up like PVC plastic anyways, so it's not holding anything metal. So be careful when you fold and unfold them, but they were really well and durable. The dioramas. This is one that was actually told to me by multiple people that, and this is my biggest problem with it, besides the large box breaking over time and just can't hold its weight, and it's just unwielding. Now, if you didn't buy the diorama version, you're not going to have to deal with this. You have an awesome tray to put the minis in, and I liked the tray that they come in originally before you were in the dioramas. Everybody was saying, and including the developers, that they are snug in those dioramas. They won't fall out. After being shipped here, and weather conditions and changes in, Chinese printing quality, I can say without a doubt, at least in my copy, 90% of it did not stay. The worst offenders are the ones that have the little cross sections on the tiny marker pieces of their terrain that have a little Lego peg that they stick on. I use Lego peg because that's how you can physically, mentally imagine how the peg looks like. I'm getting so heated, I'm losing my voice. Things like that, those tiny things like Watson's poles or Caustic's toxic bombs that stick onto those pegs, they just pop out instantly. I push a little pressure on it, it clips in, and then it pops back off. Or the player minis, because they're that PVC plastic, and especially over time as I was holding it in a vise and it was warm out, it warped the bases so that they just wobble in them now. And over time, they've kind of chilled back, but they're still not 100% secure. The only tokens that were secure enough in the thing when I did the jiggle test was Bangalore and Gibby's giant square base. That thing was the same plastic as the diorama base, and because of that, it was cut and it doesn't warp as much, so it fits snug. That thing holds in tight. Same with supply drop that Lifeline gets. That is, the base it sits on is the same plastic as the diorama, I believe, but the drop pod itself is the PVC plastic, so that had some issues when it was built. It was fine, looks good. If you guys want it, I have magnetized all of them. I can go through them and explain to you how I magnetize them, each one. Just let me know. I do need to buy more magnets to magnetize the rest of the models and figure out how I'm going to do that. That is my biggest. This one is a personal one. This isn't a negative that I say is actually worth conning. It's just a personal negative. This is one that I would say it's a neutral. So yeah, thank you so much guys for stopping by and checking this out. This has been the Apex Legends week. I've been so excited for this. I've been waiting so many years. I actually want to check the bottom of this. It just has legalese on the bottom. So yeah, this has been the Apex Legends all-in gameplay box. I've been so excited for this. I've been so waiting for this so much. I'm going to keep continuing painting the dioramas of the models I've already painted, and in the future I might go back and paint the extras just in case, or at least prime them and dry brush them. But yeah, if there's any others you want to see me paint during a stream, or just photos on Twitter, please let me know down below or on Twitter, and I will definitely paint them up for you on Sundays. But with that, I've spent all week being up till 3 a.m. working on these things. I'm going to go and properly fix my sleep schedule. Hopefully you guys have seen this, and when this does come to a local store near you, you will pick up a copy of the core box. Again, this game needs to be shown that we want games like this, and that even though it's an EA product, we can still like things that we want to like. We can still have good things. And even though it is an older version by the video game standards of Apex Legends, this is still a great homage to a game IP that makes it fun, playable, and just a great content for what you get for pricing. And I wouldn't be surprising before tariffs if you would see the core box Canadian wise for like 180 or even like 160, but also with tariffs and book prices and stuff, and if they actually throw in a lot of stuff and even maybe dioramas versions, that you see them go up to about like $200. But I'm guessing it's going to be more that 180, 185 range, and it's still going to be worth it if they give you all the, like, you know, heat shields and the different game modes in it and stuff, and just like the 4 boards and the buildings. It's still going to be worth its value, and I highly recommend getting it. If sci-fi or this box seems too big, or the wait seems a little bit too long for you, and you don't know somebody who has this game or Tabletop Simulator, highly recommend check out my video, which should be popping up here or here, wherever it is in the video display. But check out Judgment. Judgment is my second to this. If I did not have knowledge of Apex Legends coming out, I would be going this ballistic for the Kickstarter and the game of Judgment, though it did have some of its own issues. We're not going to bypass that. It's still dealing with that now, but it is still a great superior game compared to most model skirmishy, you know, like Underworlds-esque sort of games, where it's a 3 to 6 model battle royale MOBA-esque miniature skirmish game on a board. The Halo one looks interesting. If you like the Halo IP, I check it out, but I think it's a lesser version of this Apex game. But again, it just came out. They released it fully, and the models, from what I've seen, are a little bit more like actual modeling because it is made by Mantic, so it is a wargaming company, so the models are definitely going to be a way higher quality compared to this, but they're still like board game minis, at least in the starter set. So there is many games like this, and this shows, along with those other ones, that this sort of game is not dead, and that the people want it, and that this is a great alternative to wargaming, despite all its cons. I definitely rate this a 4.3 or 4.3, actually more like a 4.6 out of 5. This is the closest to a perfect game on like day one launch that I've found so far. The only other one I've found was like Gloomhaven retail version, but Frosthaven beat that. So Frosthaven was the closest, with it being about a 4, actually, yeah, like about 4 point, though it did have a built-in storage system, it still wasn't great, especially if you sleeve stuff, and it still required you putting a bunch of the monsters and stuff in baggies, and it's just so much mess, and just wasn't quick to set up in that way. Though still quicker than Apex, it was like the process to do it was a lot slower. Apex is a lot smoother, it's a lot more easy to store, everything goes in a slot, even bagged in slots that don't get used because you don't have those expansions, can still be used to easily put the things you use the most in them, so they're easily accessible. And the models comparatively to the Apex models, overall quality compared to the models, like all the player models in the Gloomhaven Frosthaven series compared to the Apex series, the Apex models are overall a better quality, though Frosthaven does have some banger minis for their heroes. Not to shit on them, but like they're not Creature Caster level. Creature Caster is peak. They're 5 out of 5 for skirmish board game mini qualities. They're the shining example of what you can do. So without further ado, I've rambled long enough for you guys. I'm tired. I gotta edit this still. You might see this Monday, Sunday, who knows. But thank you so much for being a part of me with this journey. We will see you guys in the next video. I was so excited for this. Thank you so much for finally getting this to me, almighty shipping person, UPS driver. We'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.
Because if, say, you're using his ability, or he's just taking damage, or if you want to paint him without getting the effect wrecked,